Philippians 4 says, be anxious for nothing, but you have fear, you're anxious for everything. Be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication. With thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus. You got to overcome the anger, folks. If you want, and nothing else is going to make you free of fear or anxiety or stress or worry or depression. And these stupid people put names on it like post-traumatic stress disorder, all kind of stuff. And you fall for it, and you're allowing the devil, evil, to ruin your life, while other people making buku money from you because they're covering up evil with different titles, putting names on to cover up evil. And you walk around like a zombie because you won't see the kingdom of heaven within. If you had no anger, you couldn't be anxious for anything. It would be impossible. It would be impossible to be stressed. It would be impossible to want revenge against your enemy or anyone. It would be impossible to be in the world and live in fear. According to John 4, there is no fear in love. There is no fear in love. Think about that. That's deep. And it's not that fake emotional love. That fake emotional stuff you feel, what you call love, that's hate. And there is fear in that. You love someone, then you're afraid of losing them. You love someone, then you have fear that they may walk away from you one day and you want to hurt them. But there is no fear in love. When you get rid of anger, the spirit of anger, fear leaves. And then you start to overcome the world by dealing with situations in a perfect way. According to John 4, there is no fear in love, but perfect love drives out fear. I rest my case. Perfect love drives out. The Christians read that every day, and yet, as soon as they finish with the word, in the beginning, there was the word was God, God was the word. As soon as they put the word down, they back into fear. But they'll quote the Bible, perfect love casts out fear, but they have fear. And they don't question themselves, okay, if John 4 says that perfect love casts out fear, there is no fear in love, why do I still have fear? I remember when I was into the church thing and trying to read the Bible, thank God I never learned the Bible. But when I was trying to learn it, I realized I would read the Bible, I was going to church, I was this and that, and nothing was changing. I was like, what's wrong with me? Nothing changed. I'm doing everything the preacher says, and nothing's getting better. And when I would ask the preacher, the pastor about it, it would say, read the Bible more. I was like, what the? That's not working. According to John, there is no fear in love. And the fear that it is referring to and I'm referring to is that inner fear that is within you, in your mind and your body. Inside fear. Perfect love will cast that out. And perfect love is the love that comes from above, not the love that comes from below. If you want to overcome your fear, you got to overcome the anger. As John, I goes on, sorry about that. John 4, there is no fear in love, but perfect love drives out fear, because fear has to do with punishment. Aren't you being punished? Think about it. Your fear punishes you. You can find no peace. It punishes you. You suffer in fear, and yet you hold on to it. And most people, because they don't look within, they are not aware of the kingdom of heaven within, they never question, why do I have this fear? They know they have it, but they'll justify it. The devil gives them reason to justify it because the devil lives in human beings, and he doesn't want you to overcome him. He doesn't want you to run him out of you by forgiving and having peace. He needs to dwell in human beings, and he lives through you. That's why he caused you to justify your fear so that he could dwell there. And you go along with it, thinking it's you justifying your fears, and then you find others to support it, other devils to support, inside other people to support your fear, because they have it too. There is no fear in love, but perfect love drives out fear, because fear has to do with punishment. Aren't you being punished within yourself? You're nervous, you're anxious, you're stressed, you worry, you're lonely, you can't stand alone, you can't be alone. You have to have something to keep you distracted when you are alone, because you can't be alone. The one who has fear is not made perfect in love. The one who has fear is not made perfect in love. That's some deep stuff. That was from John 4. And the first was Philippians 4. Y'all need to check that out, and then don't let the devil interpret what it means for you. Because all thoughts are all lies all the time, and the devil that lives in your imagination and emotions will interpret what the scripture means. I saw this woman, this black woman, yesterday on Fox. She was hosting in Tucker Carlson's spot. I guess they're doing different people every week or so. But she starts out like a little Christian. Oh, we are a loving country. We ain't gone yet. Just quote, acting all holy. And then yesterday, nearly all the people that she talked to, maybe except for maybe two guys, I think. There may have been three, but two guys were women. All the ones that came in to do the little commentary on what she was saying, or where they were so-called experts and so-called doctors, all female. I'm like, look here. Trying to wipe out the image of God, all in the name of Jesus, by getting rid of men. I would suggest you wake up, but it's up to you. And I've often asked, and I was saying, I've said over and over again, why are white people so scared? I was just so scared. Why are white people so scared? And I mentioned this over and over and over, and I know why. I just asked the question in hoping that it'll prompt you to examine yourself to see why you're so afraid. White people founded America. They discovered America. And they, with the help of God, they created the greatest country on this side of heaven. So I'm told. And in all the white countries, they seem to have done that. But in America, my home, put home first, the white folk founded the country, they founded the Constitution, they wanted you to be free. They were not trying to control you. They created the Constitution, all those good things. And then they died. And when they died out, due to age or however they died, other white people gave away the country out of fear. They have fear. They would not even speak up about their own country. Can you figure? That's crazy, right? They let the people who did not were not founders of the country. They didn't build the country. They were brought here or broke the law to get here, crossing the borders, and they let those people intimidate them, and they have the white people on the run in their own country, imposing critical race theory and LGBT mess and whatever else upon them. And the whites are on the run. And they know what happened in South Africa when they ran. The whites gave up South Africa to the blacks. And now, not only are the blacks taking their land without compensation, they're also going to ration the water to the whites. They're going to give the water to the colored people and the women first. And if any is left over, they'll give it to the whites in their own country. And it's happening here in America. Reparations now, reparation forever. We don't care about no bumps in the road. Y'all up there talking about putting bump stops and racism. Black people don't care about that. Black people just want their reparation. They want money, free money. And the white people are on the run. Why are white people so scared? I want to give you some examples of white people afraid to tell the truth. This is from CNN and the New York Times. Watch this.
How many of you are afraid to talk openly about race? Nobody.
I'll say yes.
Mark your mic. What?
I'll say yes, and here's why. Because I'm white, and I'm going to screw it up somehow. And when we try and talk about race, and I have these built-in insensitivities that are seen by the black community, anything that I say is going to come across from my filter, and it's going to be seen possibly badly. So am I afraid about it? I'm afraid of screwing up, though I want to have the conversation.
It's very uncomfortable to talk about race. It's not something I do.
I don't want to say anything, that would offend anyone.
It's a very touchy subject. It's still difficult, even if you feel like you're on the right side of it, to have a dialogue about it.
Especially for white people, because we don't want to see if the racism that we may be holding on to.
Now I understand that it's a system of advantages and disadvantages based on race. So as much as there's the disadvantage piece of it, there's the advantage piece of it, which is what I experience as a white person.
I know that I'm white, and I guess I'm part of that collection. I want to bring up race, and I want to bring it up in a frame that helps my children think that there's no difference. But the mere fact that I might be bringing it up could suggest that there is a difference.
I really did not know that I had a racial identity. I knew I was white. I had no idea what that meant, how that had shaped my outlook on life, how that had shaped my sense of optimism, sense of belonging, sense of safety.
I don't want to be ashamed of being, and plus I'm a male. It's like every group out there can be pissed off at me because I'm white and a male. And that's a weird kind of burden that some people do feel, and I certainly feel it sometimes from people that I'm privileged, I get stuff that other people don't get.
I think we're all implicated in a racist system, and I play my part in it as a white person. So I do have individual responsibility and accountability. I mean, I'm part of the system. And
I think that impulse, that kind of colorblindness impulse, comes mostly from white people. Like, I've never heard, I mean, I don't know. I'm sure it comes from all people of all kinds, but I've heard it most from white people who are saying, like, let's do this as a way of getting past this racism thing. And I think in part it comes from a sense of shame and guilt about what racism has done, and kind of how racism was built by white people.
Amazing. That's so sad, it's evil. And if you know, all effeminate whites as well. And did you notice the fear in their eyes? Fear. Now, I want you to smoke on this. White people have allowed the blacks and others to convince them, people who hate them, to convince them that there's something else, that they're to blame for the failure of black people, that they are racist. They have been convinced of that. And now they are saying those things about themselves, whereas you put a group of black people together about white people, they say whatever they want. They call them any kind of names they want. They get critical race theory against them. They tell the white children, you're evil because you're white. They say whatever. They don't hold back. No filter. But the white people, even the little weak men, have accepted the lie. You know you have to have anger and fear when someone can convince you that you're something that you're not. A bunch of people who hate you. Black people hate white folks, hate them. The Christian blacks and the non-Christian blacks. They hate them because they can't make it in their own life. The blacks do. They're like victims in their own mind. They're enslaved in their own mind due to hatred and anger. And instead of overcoming that, they have convinced the whites that they are the problem. Give me all your stuff. And don't you dare think or say that you're not racist. Something that doesn't even exist. Tell me that's not evil. And now the whites are on the run like I've never seen before. False guilt due to anger. They have allowed the blacks to convince them that they are the problem. And they're not the problem at all. Never have been, never will be, ain't gonna happen, ain't gonna be. You're not the fault of black people being so crazy and out there like lunatics. They have refused to take control of their own life. They have given it over to the so-called civil rights leaders, which was one of the worst things that's ever happened to the blacks other than abortion. They have given it up to the black women. So the blacks are chasing the whites, falsely accusing them of racism and all that crap, white supremacy. They're doing it out of fear, too. And anyone that has fear does not have perfect love. As John 4 says, there is no fear in love. So if you have fear, know you do not have love. Just know, I don't have love. I have fear. That fake mama's love is not love. That's hell. That's fear. That's anger. But perfect love drives out fear. The love that comes from God, when you admit you're wrong for being angry, you go and forgive, will take away the spirit of fear. It's a spirit in your imagination and in your heart. It's a spirit. It's evil. Perfect love will cast that out. But fear has to do with punishment. Because fear has to do with punishment. You're punishing yourself by being fearful, by being angry. You're suffering. And you love your suffering. And you roam the earth trying to hurt other people to justify and get false life out of thinking that you're hurting them. And what you're doing to others, you're doing it to yourself. You notice that the blacks are not getting any better at all. They're only getting worse. The whites are on the run, giving up their lives, their soul, their country to the blacks. And the blacks are not getting better. They're only getting worse. Look at their children, robbing and stealing and killing, and not only each other, but they're going out into the suburbs and there where the whites are and inflicting their fear and hatred upon the whites. And the whites are on the run. Those whites that we play right now are an example of all white people. Not all, but that's how they think. They have convinced even the men that you're the problem. Men, you are supposed to know. I understand the women being emotional and they live in their imagination because the devil from below is the woman's God and the God above is the man God. Men are supposed to know that not one adult should be blaming anyone else for their problems. And you're supposed to love your enemy by correcting your enemy, not trying to hurt your enemy, but correct them. Hey, I'm not your problem. You need to overcome the devil. Normally, the fathers put the adults' children out of the home when they're 18 because the mother's too emotional and weak to do it. She needs the world to rotate around her so she can feel good about her mess, her anger. You're punishing yourself. The one who fears is not made perfect in love. You need a heart change. Change the heart, you can change the world. And I showed you the example there of the white people being afraid of the blacks. How did you let your enemy convince you that you are their problem? The good old days, white people weren't that way. This is all new since the so-called civil rights movement happened. And they shove this stuff down your throat day in and day out, and you believe it. How do you believe it, though? How do you live with yourself? Anyway, so you heard, I gave you some examples of white people being afraid to tell the truth, right? I want to give you another example of the blacks. The black knows that white people are afraid. They know you're afraid of them. Watch this from Fox Soul.
Justin, you said that white men need to learn that they shouldn't fear black men.
Right. Speaking from my perspective, I feel that a lot of the, we'll talk about police brutality. Mm-hmm. I feel a lot of white men are scared of black men because of their lack of exposure to black men or people of color. White men are just scared or intimidated by black men for no other reason than that the color of their skin. And it's really the ignorance and the lack of exposure to those people.
Yeah, I find that interesting that the only thing that seems to scare white people are black men, literally. They swim with the sharks. They hunt, they go in the mountains and hike with the bears. They go to safaris and hang out with the tigers and the lions. And that's unfortunate because our history as black people does not reflect in any way factually that we are a violent people. And I believe Mr. Farrakhan said that the best when he said, we don't have a history of killing you. You have a history of killing us. So it's not white people who should fear blacks. It's black people who should fear whites. And trust me, we do.
White people are afraid of blacks because white people have fear. And white people are afraid of blacks because the blacks are violent. The black men and the black women, they're afraid of both. Because blacks are very violent today, and the black men and black women will accuse them of this false idea of racism. False, because there is no racism, no systemic racism, and none of that crap. But the whites are afraid of them because they're so violent. That's why they move out of the neighborhoods when the black come, because they know it's over for the neighborhood. And they're afraid of being called names because they know they're going to lose their reputation, their stuff, and all that. Because if they stood up and said no, they wouldn't lose anything. But as long as they're on the run, they're going to lose all things. And so the blacks are violent. This female is lying. Outright lying. Anyone that thinks blacks are not violent, you got another thought coming. They're violent. Look at what's happening now. They took away the police. And that stupid white man sitting there with that black woman lying. There's no such thing as police brutality. And that's not why the whites are afraid of the blacks. Blacks are violent. Even Louis Farrakhan, Al Sharpton, those are violent people because they're teaching hatred. They're lying to the folks. And because most people don't think for themselves, they take on the lies. Blacks are very violent, the men and the women. And I've noticed that the white men that are with these, see how that stupid white man was there with that black woman? I don't know what their relationship is, but he's sitting there with this black woman, scared as hell. White men that are involved with black women are scared of them, and black women clean the floor with them. Perfect love casts out fear. White people. Black people know you're afraid of them. Look at these old nasty, angry, evil black women in politics now. All they're doing is going after the whites. And those so-called black men in politics, same thing, same spirit. They're going after the whites. And that stupid female from the show there, Fox Soul, whatever they're supposed to be, lying to you. They're afraid of the shark. They're afraid of black men more than the shark. They'll swim in the ocean with the sharks. She's sitting there lying. They'll rather be with the sharks than to be with the blacks because the blacks are violent. The shark might be friendly. FBI stats shows blacks kill more than twice as many whites as vice versa, year after year. So they're doing these things, and the whites are on the run, and the blacks are lying about why the whites are on the run. According to the FBI stat, I don't even need the FBI stat. I see it for myself. You see it, they see it, everybody sees it. Everybody's scared of the blacks. Every race is afraid of the blacks. Even there are some decent blacks who are afraid of the blacks. Where do the entertainers move to when they get money? Do they stay in the hood or do they move in the white areas? Soul Woman is lying. That female is lying. Those people sitting there nodding, lying too. Perfect love casts out fear. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gon' come. Oh, yes it will. It's been too hard living, but I'm afraid to die. I don't know what's up there beyond the sky. It's been a long, long time coming, but I knew change gon' come. White people, there's a storm arising. Let's go home. It's time to wake up before it's too late. Because you're giving up America to the blacks and all these other radicals who want to pretend you're against them, and they're just going to destroy America. They're not going to make it better. They can't make it better. It's not in their nature. They don't know how, and you're on the run. There's a storm arising. Let's go home. You got to start speaking up. You got to overcome anger. Anger is of your daddy, the devil. And these people are serious about what they're doing. Every day they come up with something to keep you on the run and scared. I was just so scared. So you heard those stupid white people talk about, I feel guilty. I'm afraid because I got white privilege. I didn't know I was this. I didn't know I was racist because I had privilege. What's wrong with you? You smoking too much pot? What the? You have believed into a lie, and you're losing your country to people that's not going to make it better. I can see it a little bit if they say, okay, black folks say, y'all going to make it better. I know, I see by example, y'all going to make it better. And so I'm going to relax and let y'all have the country because I know it's going to get better. That's not happening. It ain't going to happen. It can't happen. Now, here's a different way to talk about race from Gavin McInnes. Gavin McInnes. This is from Rebel News and MTV. Watch this.
All right, let's start this. Resolutions for white guys.
Hey, fellow white guys. It's about to be a new year. And there's a few things we think
These are the people I want telling me how to live my life, by the way. 2017 resolutions for white guys.
Try to recognize that America was never great for anyone who wasn't a white guy. Can we all just agree?
Stop! I would like you to know what America was like for a white guy. First of all, we didn't steal the land from the Indians. We fought them for 400 years, did a lot of bad but had a lot of bad done to us. That was just to establish it. Then we had to have a revolution to get the British out. Then we had to have a civil war to end slavery. You know how many people died in that? 620,000 white guys died ending slavery. And then we had World War I for 100,000 guys. We had World War II, 400,000 guys. What are we at now? 1 million? I'm not including the tens of millions in Vietnam and Korea. All those white guys were drafted. They didn't voluntarily march off to fight Nazis. We fought on your behalf. Now you're in this resplendent oasis of freedom, and your first note is, you could be better, be butter. You're welcome, Go ahead.
Can we all just agree that Black Lives Matter isn't the opposite of All Lives Matter?
Okay,
Black
stop
Lives just-
there. We know Black Lives Matter. When we say all lives matter, we're mocking your infantile wording. You guys keep reducing arguments down to two people just want to be in love. Peace is good. Hate is bad. And then if you disagree, we think hate is good. No, that's how toddlers talk.
There's no need to overcomplicate.
Yeah, don't overcomplicate it with
Blue Lives
reality.
Matter isn't a thing. Cops weren't born with blue skin.
Okay, stop. You see what they're doing here? Blue lives don't. And by the way, we said Blue Lives Matter using your silly language because it is relevant, because you don't seem to care. You say, what do we want? Dead cops. When do we want them? Now. And then what happens? Rafael Ramos, Wenjian Liu, is that his name? Yeah. 2 NYPD cops get assassinated. You said you want dead cops. You got them. No parades, no tears, not even some crocodile tears. So we're saying to you, hey, Blue lives matter. If you really care, you should care about all lives, but you don't. You just care about black lives. And the black lives you chose, Mike Brown didn't have his hands up, you chose a bunch of fake news stories. So your propaganda with your fake news and your oversimplification, we don't need to complicate it, it's getting people killed.
Right? I mean,
you're not black, by the way, and I'm not white. It's called a metaphor.
Woke. Stop saying woke.
We never say woke! I never said woke in my life! You're the ones who say woke! You can have woke! It's yours! You're sitting there on our technology and our inventions and all our hard work, and you're saying you suck. Look, I never really thought of myself as a white guy until I was told that I suck. Then I went over to Google, I looked it up, and I went, oh, these guys are kind of awesome. Yeah, I have something to say. This is my New Year's resolution. I'm going to start accepting that I created the modern world. And I'm also going to say to people like you, you're welcome, you ingrate.
I'll rest my case. Now think about it. Imagine if half of white folks spoke up like that. Just speak up. No. Just say no. We could save America. America would be just fine. But when white men speak up in that way, they try to shut you down because one white person spoke up. It's like with the blacks. The blacks, what happened to the blacks? When one black person stand up and speak the truth, they try to fade him out, like with Justice Clarence Summers, right? He speak the truth. Most people don't even hear about him now. Booker T. Washington, George Washington Carver. Most black people don't know those folks. Walter Williams, and all those people, because they fade out. They don't want you to know that it's a lie that they're talking about. And if you had 10 more white men spoke up like Gavin, you could save America. But no, you've allowed your enemy to convince you that you're the problem as though that's going to help solve the problem. It ain't solving nothing. And then you have the media, you have the politicians, you have everybody keeping everyone divided so that they can control you. And common sense says that if you believe white people are that racist, which doesn't exist, and your enemy, which is not true, why don't you just leave the country? It's the white people's country. It's not your country. That don't make you stay here. You can move. Go to Mexico or somewhere. Go to Africa and see what happens. God bless government ministers for speaking up. And I want to show you one other courage without anger. This is deep. This is from Newsweek. Here's Donald Trump attending his second town hall event in Iowa. This is from Fox. Watch this.
I've asked you this question before, and it comes up a lot. People know that I've interviewed you all these years. I've known you almost 30 years. And people ask me and say to him, why does he have to fight so hard? Why doesn't he pick his fights a little more? Why does he have to call people names? And the argument that they make to me is, if he would just tone it down a hair, stop a little of the name calling. Hang on. I said it's their question. Leave me alone. All right. That it might help you with swing voters that are needed for you to get over the finish line. It's already hard enough electoral vote-wise for a Republican to win. What do you say to them?
I was under siege by people that have been in Washington for many years, put in there by many different presidents, in most cases people that were against me, like they spied on my campaign. They did all sorts of things. I was under investigation and under siege, and so were my people. And if I wasn't tough, I wouldn't be here right now, I guarantee you that. If I didn't fight back, I wouldn't be here. We need courage in this country, or we're going to lose our country.
Wow. And the weak people, if you notice about the people with fear and anger, the weak ones, they're always telling the strong one, calm down. Don't say it like that. Don't do it like that. Calm down. The weak people always try to get the strong to become weak. They don't change anything. They say and do whatever they want. But if you speak up, if you disagree, and you have love and no anger, calm down. If you calm down, you may get this vote or that vote. Which is more important, to be free or to get a vote? God bless the great white hope, Donald Trump. White folks, there's a storm coming. It's time to wake up. And let's go home.